Basketball has had super teams before, but every once in a while, a team comes along that doesn't just win games, it breaks the sport. And that's exactly what 2016 Chino Hills did. This wasn't your typical high school dynasty with a 12-man rotation and a legendary coach. No, this was a random public school in Southern California that turned into the center of the basketball universe overnight. And the craziest part? They did it with 3 brothers, a loudmouth dad, and 2 childhood friends. That's it. No bench, no super transfer from across the country. Just 5 dudes running the same 5-man lineup like they were at a park run on a Tuesday night. But here's the catch, they weren't just winning, they were putting teams in body bags. From the opening tip, they came at you like a storm. Full court press every possession, pull up threes from the volleyball line, alley-oop after alley-oop after alley-oop. Lonzo Ball was literally throwing full court passes like he was the quarterback. Jello was firing threes like every shot was worth $100. And Melo? Yeah, Melo was just 14 years old, pulling from the logo like it was nothing. And the result? Pure chaos. Gyms packed an hour before tip-off. Fans climbing on top of bleachers just to see what was about to happen. Celebrities sitting courtside. Instagram blowing up with highlights before the final buzzer even sounded. But here's what makes this team legendary. They actually backed it up. 35 wins, 0 losses, a national championship, and they didn't just beat good teams, they humiliated them. Montverde, Sierra Canyon, Mater D, all loaded with 5 stars and future pros, and Chino Hills sent them all home in blowouts. And right there on the sidelines for all of it, LeVar Ball, yelling, celebrating, turning this high school team into a family business, and accidentally building one of the most recognizable brands in basketball history. This wasn't supposed to happen, not with 2 freshmen, 1 senior, and a dad louder than the entire student section combined. And that's why this story is so insane, because 2016 Chino Hills wasn't just a good team, they were a glitch in the basketball matrix. So today, we're going back to relive the season that shocked the country, humiliated the best programs in America, and created the most entertaining high school basketball team we may ever see. Before Chino Hills became a national headline, they were just Chino Hills, a quiet public school that had never even sniffed a national championship conversation. No ESPN cameras, no viral highlights, no celebrities showing up. Then came the Ball brothers. Lonzo was the oldest, a 6'6" point guard who looked like he was born to throw a no-look pass. Calm, unselfish, and freakishly smart on the floor. He was the guy who could get 18 assists without even breaking a sweat. And he wasn't just the best player in California, he might have been the best high school player in the entire country. D'Angelo was the middle brother, the bucket getter. He didn't have Lonzo's flash or Melo's deep-range trolling, but when Chino Hills needed points, Jello delivered. He led this team in scoring with 28 a night and wasn't afraid to shoot from anywhere at any time against anybody. Then there was LaMelo, 14 years old, freshman, should have been at the middle school dance. Instead, he was starting varsity, casually pulling from the logo like it was a warm-up shot. Nobody could believe what they were watching. A baby-faced kid keeping up with one of the fastest teams in the country. But the Ball brothers weren't doing this alone. Eli Scott was their heart and soul, the Draymond Green of Chino Hills. He did everything: defend, rebound, attack the rim, scream in your face after a dunk. And holding down the paint was a 15-year-old Onyeka Okongwu, Big O, who blocked everything, cleaned the glass, and dunked like he was mad at the rim. That was the lineup. No 10-man rotation, no star transfers, just 5 guys who had been playing together for years, running the exact same system they'd been perfecting since they were kids. And then there was LeVar Ball, the loudest man in every gym they played in. Love him or hate him, you can't tell this story without him. He wasn't just a dad on the sideline, he was the hype man, the PR team, and the marketing department all rolled into one. LeVar told the world his boys were the best, and then they went out and proved him right. It was the perfect storm. 3 brothers, 2 close friends, a coach who let them run wild, and a father who refused to let them blend in. This wasn't supposed to work. Public schools don't produce national champions. Teams with 1 senior don't go undefeated. But by the time this group took the floor in November 2015, it was already too late. The monster had been built, and they were about to unleash it on everyone. The first thing you need to understand about 2016 Chino Hills is that they didn't just play basketball, they broke basketball. High school teams are supposed to slow things down, run set plays, and keep scores respectable. Chino Hills looked at all of that and said, nah. From the opening tip, they pressed you full court, not just after a made basket, after everything. Made shot, missed shot, turnover, it didn't matter. You had about 2 seconds to get the ball past half court before one of the Ball brothers ripped it away and turned it into a lob. And when they had the ball, they didn't run offense, they ran track. 1 pass, 2 passes, dunk. If the other team was lucky enough to make a basket, Lonzo would grab the ball out of the net, throw a full court dime, and Eli Scott would already be hanging on the rim. They averaged nearly 100 points per game in high school. Most teams were lucky to crack 60, and they weren't doing it with some 12-man rotation of future NBA stars. This was 5 guys, every night, every minute, running opponents into the ground. Lonzo was the engine. He didn't just run the fast break, he was the fast break. His vision was absurd. Half the time his passes would leave the crowd gasping before the ball even got to the receiver. Jello was the firepower. He could get hot and drop 30 on you before halftime. And Melo, he was the chaos agent. 1 possession he'd pull up from the volleyball line, the next he'd throw a no-look assist. At 14 he was already a walking highlight reel. And the system worked. People thought it was a gimmick until December 2015 when Chino Hills went to the City of Palms Classic and faced #1 Montverde Academy. This was their national moment. Montverde was loaded with talent. RJ Barrett, future NBA guard Anthony Simons, and came in riding a 29-game win streak. Everyone thought this was where the Chino Hills hype train would finally derail. Instead, it turned into a classic. LiAngelo Ball dropped 32 points. Lonzo scored 29 with 8 assists, controlling the game from start to finish. Melo, the freshman, chipped in 16. And when it came down to the final seconds, Jello calmly sank the free throws that sealed it, giving Chino Hills an 83-82 win and snapping Montverde's streak. At that moment, it was official. This wasn't just some fun California story. This was the best team in America. The style wasn't just working, it was destroying some of the best programs in the country. And Chino Hills was just getting started. By January 2016, Chino Hills was no longer just a team. They were a show. Their games felt less like high school basketball and more like rock concerts. Gyms were packed an hour before tip-off. The line to get in wrapped around the block. Fans were standing on the bleachers just to get a glimpse. Every dunk, every deep three, every lob felt like a viral clip waiting to happen. And they were everywhere. Instagram pages were posting their highlights before the final buzzer. Twitter was buzzing about a public school team. ESPN started running segments on the Ball brothers. Even casual fans who had never watched high school ball before were tuning in. LeVar Ball, of course, turned the hype into a full-blown circus. He was courtside at every game, talking loud, hyping up his boys, telling reporters that not only were they the best team in the country, but that Lonzo was better than Steph Curry. And the craziest part, for once, the outrageous dad talk didn't feel that outrageous. Chino Hills was blowing out everyone. Local schools, out-of-state powerhouses, top 50 programs, it didn't matter. But now came the hard part, the Southern Section Open Division playoffs, where they'd have to prove they could keep this up against the best of the best, with everyone gunning for them. The next giant standing in their way, Mater D. If Montverde was the trendy private school with NBA talent, Mater D was the gold standard, the most prestigious basketball program in California. Decades of tradition, multiple national championships, and a head coach who had seen it all. Except, he hadn't seen this. From the opening tip, Chino Hills didn't just beat Mater D, they humiliated him. By the end of the first quarter, Chino Hills was up by 27 points. By halftime, it was a blowout. By the fourth quarter, the lead had ballooned past 50. And the refs had to implement a running clock just to keep the game from getting completely out of hand. That's how bad it got. The officials basically said, yeah, this is over, let's just get everybody home safe. LaMelo was out there throwing no-look passes like it was a joke. Lonzo was running the offense like a maestro, barely even breaking a sweat. Jello was still getting buckets. Eli Scott was dunking everything, and the whole team was smiling, celebrating, clowning on one of the most respected programs in high school basketball. After the game, Mater D's legendary head coach, a guy who had been coaching for 34 years, admitted he had never seen a running clock in his entire career. That's what this team did to people, but Mater D was just the warm-up. The real coronation moment came in the Southern Section Open Division Championship, Chino Hills versus Sierra Canyon. Sierra Canyon wasn't just another team, they were the team. A private school powerhouse loaded with D1 prospects and future NBA talent like Marvin Bagley. This was supposed to be the game that slowed Chino Hills down, the one that exposed them, that proved they were human. Instead, it turned into a 105-83 track meet, with Chino Hills running away from Sierra Canyon so fast it looked like they were playing a different sport entirely. Lonzo put up a triple-double with 20 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists. LaMelo, the 14-year-old freshman, went off for 26 points on 11 for 17 shooting, casually pulling up from 30 feet. Eli Scott and Big O dominated the paint, and LiAngelo did what LiAngelo always did, poured in buckets. By halftime, it wasn't a question of who would win, it was by how much. The crowd was losing its mind, and by the final buzzer, it was official. Chino Hills had just conquered Southern California. They weren't just undefeated, they were untouchable. At this point, they weren't playing for rankings or respect, they were playing for history. And next up was the final chapter, the California Open Division State Playoffs, where they'd have to finish the job and go perfect. When the final buzzer sounded on Chino Hills' perfect season, it didn't just end a championship run. It closed the book on one of the most electric, chaotic, and unforgettable moments in basketball history. In 4 short months, a quiet public school turned into the epicenter of the sport. They didn't just win, they rewired how people thought high school basketball could be played. And when it was all over, the basketball world couldn't stop talking about what we had just witnessed. Lonzo Ball, the calmest star in high school hoops, went on to UCLA and immediately turned him into a Final Four contender before becoming the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. LaMelo Ball, the baby of the group, eventually took his talents overseas, then made his way back as the number 3 pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Now a bona fide NBA All-Star, Onyeka Okongwu followed suit, becoming a top 10 pick in 2020 and a key piece for the Atlanta Hawks. Eli Scott became a standout at Loyola Marymount, and LiAngelo, still the most underrated ball brother, went on to a pro career of his own. And then there was LeVar. If the 2016 season was the spark, LeVar Ball was the gasoline. In the years that followed, he launched Big Baller Brand, landed his family a reality TV show, and stayed in the headlines, reminding everyone that the Ball brothers weren't just hoopers, they were a business. But even with all the drama, the controversy, the 92-point game, the detours and setbacks, nothing could erase what they did that year. Because here's the truth, we'll probably never see another team like 2016 Chino Hills again. 3 brothers in the same starting 5, 2 close friends filling out the rest of the lineup, 1 senior, 2 freshmen, a coach willing to let him play like it was an NBA All-Star game on Fast Forward, a dad loud enough to make the entire country tune in. They weren't supposed to go 35-0. They weren't supposed to blow out national powerhouses. They weren't supposed to become a cultural phenomenon. But that's why they were an anomaly. For 1 season, they made high school basketball must-watch TV. For 1 season, they gave us a team we still talk about almost a decade later. And for 1 season, they were perfect. And that's the story of 2016 Chino Hills, a public school team that turned the basketball world upside down. But now I want to hear from you. What's your favorite memory from this run? Was it LaMelo casually pulling from half court as a freshman? Lonzo throwing full court lobs like he was Peyton Manning? Or maybe that night they ran Mater D out of the gym so bad the refs had to mercy rule it? Drop your favorite moment down in the comments. I'll be replying to a bunch of them. And if you want even more deep dives like this, plus bonus breakdowns, early access to videos, and monthly jersey giveaways, join our Patreon. The link's in the description, and it's the best way to support the channel so we can keep making content like this. We'll see you in the next one.